year. Joining us now is Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Senator Murphy, thank you very much for joining us tonight. This has been a very important cause for you since that horrible day in Connecticut. What was your reaction to the judge's finding today?
Well, I'm thrilled for the families. I was in touch with one of the lead plaintiffs, Erica Lafferty, whose mother was the principal, the heroic principal at Sandy Hook Elementary School this evening. And I'm glad that Alex Jones and his movement is finally being brought to justice. It's really hard, Lawrence, to explain how crippling this conspiracy theory movement led by Alex Jones, but perpetuated by many others, has been to these families. Lenny Posner dropped his 3 kids off at Sandy Hook Elementary School that day, and he never saw one of them again. Noah died. He was the first funeral that we attended just days afterwards. Lenny Posner lives in hiding today. He lives in hiding today because he is targeted viciously and violently by these conspiracy theorists, people that Alex Jones whipped up into a fury and sent after these families. So these families have been victimized over and over again, first by losing their loved ones, and second by having to deal with the terror of a conspiracy theory movement that thinks they are all actors, thinks they are all politically motivated, thinks this was all done as a stage act to try to promote a political agenda in Washington. It's sick. And I'm glad that at least today, several families from Sandy Hook had their day in court and have been able to reach some justice.
Let's listen to a bit of a PBS Frontline documentary about how Alex Jones did this, how he did this kind of work. Here they are interviewing one of the editors working for Alex Jones.
Jones had no evidence whatsoever to prove that that didn't happen. And he said it many times because that's just what fit into his worldview. That's what, I mean, on some level, it felt like that's what he wanted it to be.
One of Jones's employees, longtime editor Rob Jacobson, brought his concerns directly to Jones.
And I stopped him and I was like, Alex, man, they're gonna come after you for Sandy Hook. You know, I was like, look, man, this is crazy. And he just stopped and looked at me with no reaction. He had nothing to say to me. Like, he just stopped like a deer in headlights.
And Senator, the fact that he was warned is part of the evaluation of how much damages he should be paying here.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any number that makes these families whole for what they have experienced because of this conspiracy theory movement around Sandy Hook denial. What I know is that Alex Jones was doing this, sure, because it fit into his worldview, but also because it got him ratings. Because there is, unfortunately, a constituency out there of people who are unmoored from reality that are willing to believe all of these wild concoctions, whether it be about the true story behind the Sandy Hook shooting or the election of President Trump. And the reason that this judgment was handed down today is because Alex Jones wouldn't produce any of the information that would have been exculpatory towards him. The judge wanted to see, and the plaintiffs deserved to see, the records about what his ratings looked like when he went after these Sandy Hook families. I think what we would find is that it drove his ratings, and that's why he continued to perpetuate these lies, because it made him money.
And there's a similar case in Texas where there has also been a similar finding. And it seems now, I mean, this case started years ago, but it seems now that there's more at stake in the post-January 6th world, where the notion of just telling any lie you want at any time on one side of our politics has just become so wild. To see Alex Jones actually financially wiped out, possibly, by his lying might be the kind of lesson that some other people need.
So I think this is a really important point, Lawrence. We need to start thinking of our legal system as a way to provide some check, some ability to control the worst, most disgusting, most abusive of these lies and conspiracy theories. Obviously, there are First Amendment protections, but they are not complete. And in this case, Alex Jones knew that he was telling a lie. He knew that it was going to cause harm to these families. He did it anyway in order to make money. And I think it is important that, especially when these purveyors of propaganda and falsehoods are doing it simply for profit, doing it knowing that it is false, the legal system has to hold them to account. And maybe that will provide a bit of a chilling effect on others who are going to try to spread future lies that ultimately could bring down our democracy. I think the stakes are that high right now. And while our legal system can't be the complete check, it can be a big part of it. And this was a good day today towards that end.
Senator, I don't want to leave this subject without asking about the victims' families who are suffering through this to this day. And what can you tell us about how they are doing at this point?
I mean, there's no one story when it comes to the victims of the kids at Sandy Hook. There's not a week that goes by that I'm not talking to several of the family members. Many have moved out of Sandy Hook, have started new lives other places. Some families have had children after Sandy Hook, have begun to restart their lives. Many are, working to try to change the laws of this nation to make sure that other madmen don't get their hands on these military-style assault weapons. But I think what unifies them is the recognition that there are far too many families that nobody knows about. 100 people die from gun violence every single day. There's dozens of people murdered by guns every single day. And I think many of the Sandy Hook families appreciate the attention that their kids have gotten, but they believe that every single kid who loses their life due to gun violence should get the same amount of attention. And that's, I think, a struggle that we have to fight to make sure that folks know, even when there's not a day with a mass shooting with 20 or 30 people dying, there's still an ongoing tragedy of daily repetitive gun violence in this country that is robbing us of too many young lives.
Senator Chris Murphy, thank you for helping keep our attention on this. We really appreciate it.